President David C. Munson Jr. of the Rochester Institute of Technology. My name is Chris Chichester. I have been in contact with you about your employee, Dr. Caroline Easton. She's a professor of clinical and forensic psychology in the College of Health Sciences and Technology. She's also, according to her biography, the director of RIT's internship program. So, Dr. Munson, I am an innocent man, and I've been in jail 6 times. 6 times the prosecutor hasn't talked in court. And I'm using the Freedom of Information law upon District Attorney Sandra Dorley to force her to disclose the names of my prosecutors to silence. This is only since September 17th, the Freedom of Information law, which I'm sure you're familiar with as you use it. The District Attorney of Monroe County, Dr. Munson, Sandra Dorley, is at a level of corruption where she refuses to disclose the names of my prosecutors to silence. How is any citizen in jail 1 time without a prosecutor talking in court? This happened to me 6 times, and there are multiple reasons that I cannot explain because I only have so much time on this YouTube. But a reason why I'm being returned to jail as an innocent man is I read salaries for the district attorney's office, sheriff's office on YouTube. They all know what they're paid. I'm full disclosure for them. So this is how I know the name Dr. Caroline Easton, and I've told you this previously, and I'm going to contact you in writing about this, and I haven't heard anything from you. And I strive for accuracy and the truth. And if I'm saying something that's not accurate or not the truth, or something you disagree with, or Dr. Easton disagrees with, then please tell me, because I will be in contact with the New York State Department of Health, the Office of Mental Health, and the Federal Department of Health and Human Services about your employee, Dr. Caroline Easton, and what she did to me. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember when I contacted you previously? So, Dr. Munson, I moved to Penfield in 2012 with my then girlfriend, Laura Riley. We moved from Webster to Penfield. And I did not know, even though Laura's hired at the Penfield Public Library, that Penfield Town Court is in a library complex. And when you open the door to Penfield Public Library, there's this long hallway. And at the end of the long hallway is this little disgusting, sickening, repulsive room called Penfield Town Court. And my life is normal. My life is ordinary. And because of a parking lot that you can walk through, Dr. Munson, and Dr. Caroline Easton can walk through, my life is going to change radically. And the reason why I'm looking down is I'm looking for a photograph of the parking lot next to where I used to live, because this parking lot here, Dr. Munson, destroys my life. I don't know how familiar you are with Penfield, but this parking lot, if you drive down Penfield Road toward Wegmans and Target, Cam's Pizza, which I used to go to frequently, you will see this parking lot. You can walk through this parking lot without being arrested. And Dr. Caroline Easton can walk through this parking lot without being arrested. 36,000 citizens of Penfield, New York can walk through this parking lot without being arrested. 17.9 million citizens in the state of New York can walk through this parking lot without being arrested. I'm the only citizen in the state of New York to be arrested for walking through this parking lot. This is the lunatic fringe. And this is why people hate the police. And I think we're about the same age. I'm 57. I don't know how old you are, but I've seen your photographs, and when you rise to such a distinguished position, and I've read your biography, and it's extremely impressive, and I don't use that word extremely often, but you have led a distinguished life. And I'm not, as I speak about your employees, engaged in any type of vengeance. I know the name of your employee, Dr. Caroline Easton, because she introduced herself to me. I never wanted to know her name. So this is how I know her name. And I've said this to you previously. And I'm going to contact you, like I said, in writing, and tell your employee to respond to me. I want to hear her response. If she exists in silence, well, that's a confession that something's radically wrong. And something is radically wrong with her. So I moved to Penfield with my then girlfriend, Laura, and this is parking lot next to where we live. And 4,000 times I walked through that parking lot. What's more ordinary, normal, Dr. Munson, than walk through a parking lot? I mean, how does this invite the Monroe County Sheriff Office employees into my life? So one day I'm walking through this parking lot, and there are new individuals at 2033 Penfield Road, because at 2033 Penfield Road was my dentist, Dr. Corey Nichols. And I decided to see her one day. I think it was about 2013. And I would see her all the time, and I thought, oh, it's time to go to the dentist, and I decided on Dr. Nichols. Penfield High School students in the red athletic apparel walked through his parking lot. The elderly woman who was across the street from me walked through his parking lot. My excellent friend Adam, who was my neighbor right next to me, attached next to me, walked through his parking lot. Adam's mother and father walked through his parking lot. How ordinary normal is it? Well, it's not going to be ordinary normal for me. Dr. Gloria Nichols moves her practice from 2033 Penfield Road. In moved Neeraj and Layla Kumar Shan. This is a 50-year-old man who lives with his 7-year-old mother. 4,000 times I walked through his parking lot. And one day I'm returning from Gold's Gym in Fairport. And at the top here, you can see this is a photograph of my neighbor with his dog walk through his parking lot. There's no arrest warrant for my neighbor or his dog and walk through his parking lot, David Munson. So at the back here, I'm walking through the park, back down towards Sanders Farm Drive, and I'm about to enter my residence in 60 seconds or so, I think. And I hear this screaming from behind me. I've never heard a man scream like this. It sounded like an animal being shot in the jungle, the way he was screaming at me. And I turn around, and it's Neeraj Shah, this 50-year-old man who lives with his 70-year-old mother. And I approach him, I say, what's the problem? He's screaming inside his car. And we have this confrontation where I'm trying to talk to him, where I'm saying, what's the problem? Because it's ordinary normal to walk through this parking lot. I see people from my former residence, which was a 2-story residence, from the back window, the bedroom window, I'd see people walk through the parking lot. From the front, where the kitchen is, I'd see people walk through the parking lot. It's ordinary normal. So why is this guy losing his mind? He really is, to use that phrase, losing his mind, screaming at me. When he knows that people walk through this parking lot every day because he can see them just like I can, because he lives there. Something's radically wrong with this guy and his mother. And I can't talk about other things that have happened to me because I only have so much time, like the YMCA when I ran into him and his mother. And that was a whole freak show. I had to deal with the YMCA. These two have descended upon me, this 50-year-old man, Neeraj Shah, who lives with his 7-year-old mother, and destroyed my life. And the beginning of the destruction of my life is when he's screaming at me. So I have this confrontation with him where I'm saying, what's the problem? And he's screaming in his car, I walk away. As I walk away, I tell him to fuck off, and I give him the official finger of Brooklyn, New York. And this is restraint because I have known individuals in my long life, especially in Brooklyn, that when someone is screaming like he is, they're not just going to walk away. There will be a confrontation and possibly something that even surpasses a confrontation with this guy. So I use profanity and I give him the finger, and that's just the way it is. And he goes to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, this Neeraj Shah, about me walking through a parking lot. I've walked through 4,000 times. And this photograph is my neighbor and his dog, Dr. Munson. This is how $67,000 Shannon Meyer, the cop from hell that works for Todd Baxter, is going to concoct the crime for me. Shannon Meyer calls me, and I speak to her for 60-plus minutes, and it is the weirdest conversation of my life, where she says to me, why do you want to walk through the parking lot? And there were a number of times where I held the phone away from my ear and I looked at it. I'm thinking, why is she calling me? And I didn't know yet. I could not figure it out, and I should have. And I'm embarrassed that I wasn't able to reach the point where she set me up and cocked an arrest for me. And the only reason why the $67,000 cop from hell, Shannon Meyer, calls me is to say she talked to me. Where I'm saying to her things like, it's ordinary normal to walk through this parking lot. Over and over, I'm telling you, people walk through this parking lot every day, and why are you calling me about it? And then I say to her, there's real crime in Monroe County, especially in Rochester, New York, which is, and this is due to population, but I think there are other factors involved, with it being one of the most violent cities in Rochester. And I was just up on Avenue D the other day, and it is really scary in certain parts of Rochester, even in the middle of the day. So, this is how Shannon Meyer concocts a crime for me. She wants to arrest me. After I get done talking to her and telling her what I told her about how ordinary and how normal, how routine it is to walk through this parking lot. And I even said to her, if you're calling me, you should call everybody in Penfield that walks through this parking lot. Because where's my 14th Amendment right to equal protection laws? And you should be calling Penfield High School students that walk through this parking lot because I can see them in their red athletic apparel. What she does is she calls Steve Desmond of Broccolo Tree and Lawn Care, which is this landscaping racket. And there's a new way to cut grass when you're up on your tractor. Grass is not mowed the old-fashioned way. So this is how Shannon Meyer concocts a crime for me. She tells this Steve Desmond of Broccolo Tree and Lawn Care to ride his tractor by my residence. And she wants me to come outside my residence. So you can see here this part of the land here. That land has no ownership, Dr. Munson, because I talked to Timothy Murphy, the Monroe County Office of Real Property Tax Service. When I say I talked to him, I tried to talk to him, he hung up the phone on me because there is no documentation. Layla Kumar and Rochester sent me documentation that's laughable. When I bought my house in the Albany suburb of Guilderland, New York, my realtor, her name is Gloria, gave me a set of documents that had seals on it, a number of other things, affidavits, I think they may be called, that verify that I own the land. I lived in a cul-de-sac. We can look at it. It's ridiculous. How does anybody own that land? And nobody owns that land. So Shannon Meyer tells the Steve Desmond, Brock Coltrane, lawn care to ride his tractor along the side of my residence here, right there. And she says to him, get him to come out of his house, because if he does, I want to arrest him. I've said this previously to Todd Baxter too. Well, it's not a crime for me to walk outside, stand on 26 Adams Farm Drive, which is right here, and walk back in my residence. And that's exactly what I did. Here's a different way. I stood right here, and there's a Monroe County Sheriff Office vehicle. You know why that vehicle's there? That's not an accident. They would drive over to my residence and sit outside my residence. There he is right there. I photographed of them outside my residence. Well, what happened is I stood right here. I said, nobody owns that land. I walked back in my residence. I'm sure you know, as an educated man, as an intellectual, Dr. Munson, that's not a crime. Now, if you worked at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, you would be in confusion as to what constitutes a crime, because Sheriff Todd K. Baxter and his fanatics, degenerates, sociopaths don't know what constitutes a crime, especially the $67,000 cop from hell that he won't fire. So that's how Meyer concocts a criminal contempt second for me, where I walked outside, I stood there, said nobody owns that land, and I walked back in my residence. I sat on my couch. Meyer runs into my backyard. I see her. She falls down on her face, falls down on my backyard dirt. There she is, this cop from hell laying on my backyard dirt. And as I now know, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office don't knock at the door, ring the doorbell. They announce their presence with fanaticism. They're pounding on my door. So I'm thinking, what is that? I go answer the door. There's 5 of them at my front door. So I got 6 employees of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office being in my residence at 26 Adams Farm Drive, for being outside for 30 seconds to tell Steve Desmond, a Broad Coltrane lawn care, nobody owns the land next to my residence. I walk out onto my front lawn, and I'm surrounded by these fanatics, and the handcuffs go on, and Meyer runs back around to the front. She's got dirt on her face. This hyperventilating freak is breathing right in front of me. I say, what crime did I commit? And my friend Adam watched this happen to me. So that's not a crime, Dr. David C. Munson Jr. And I've said this to Todd Baxter over and over, in writing, on YouTube, on an app I'm using called TikTok, that this is not a crime. They drive me to Monroe County Jail. They put me in the jail cell, and I urinated on myself. I'm one of these lucky guys that has the frequency of 50-something, as I put it. And there I am. I'm sitting there in my own urine, handcuffed inside a jail cell. And this is when the Monroe County Sheriff Office employee comes to his jail cell. I'm sitting in my own urine. He says, I want to show you something. And on his phone, just like this phone that I have, this is my iPhone, it's one of my phones, is the video image of me being outside. And I looked at this in revulsion, Dr. Munson. This is how I know my right arm was moving. And I say to him, Dr. Munson, what crime did I commit? Tell me what crime I committed. And he doesn't say anything to me. And I'm looking down. I hope you can have some patience with me as I look for things, as I talk to you, because that video image of me is from a surveillance device. And just because I use that phrase, surveillance device, doesn't make me mentally ill, because Todd Baxter refuses to tell me and disclose to me if he bought it for me and walking through his parking lot, or if it was already existing technology. And this is it. You can see it. I hope you can see it here clearly, Dr. Munson. I'm going to hold it up. That's a camera called a surveillance device, and that's at 2025 Penfield Road. I hope you can see it. I'm trying to see and look in this YouTube to see if you can see what I'm showing you. But that's it. And my public defender, Regina Harper, already showed me the images, and they were lying about it initially, because this is the fanaticism, the extremism, the hatred of Todd Baxter, because he knows that there are individuals that are mentally in the United States of America that believe they're under surveillance, either by the government or some other entity. And Sheriff Todd Baxter's employees know that they can humiliate me when I use that phrase. Well, that's the device on that building. And the reason why a man named Ellie Roth says to me, works at this building at 2025 Penfield Road, you're going to be arrested. He knows that camera's on that building. So I've seen the images, not only when the Monroe County Sheriff Office employee came to my holding cell where I'm sitting in my own urine, but my public defender, Regina Harper, emailed me links that I hope to show you, and I'll send. When I contact your office, I'll send these links too. I don't know how live they are because this I have to rely on the sheriff's office, and I'm in the process of trying to transfer any type of video I receive from the sheriff's office to some type of device where I can have it. I haven't figured out yet how to do that. But he buys a surveillance device for me, and I call it a surveillance device. And then they're calling Lindsey Barron of the Monroe County Office of Mental Health to come to my residence. One day I finished my run, and I'm using this phrase surveillance device over and over, where I've already seen the images. Regina Harper, the public defender's office, has showed them to me. So he buys a surveillance device to me. I accurately described it as such, and then they're calling Lindsey Barron of the Monroe County Office of Mental Health to come to my residence. Because one day I finished my run, and Willow Pond Way goes to Sandstrom Drive. And as I'm walking back to my residence, there's a Monroe County Sheriff Office vehicle in my driveway, and I see the vehicle, and I decided I'm going to continue to run because I don't want to be part of this freak show. So I turn back around, I run back down Willow Pond Way, which I just came from. And here I am running down Willow Pond Way, and here comes the Monroe County Sheriff Office vehicle with Lindsey Barron of the County Office of Mental Health inside it. So I'm running. Here's the vehicle with Lindsey Barron. And then Lindsey Barron is saying, I want to talk to you, Chris, screaming at me. I'm running. Lindsey Barron of the County Office of Mental Health saying, I want to talk to you, Chris, over and over. I stopped and I said to her, we're not talking about anything. This fanatical sheriff, this degenerate Todd Banks, bought a camera called surveillance device. He put it on that building. I've seen the images. There's nothing to talk about. And she left. Because I could think, I guess that she saw that I don't want any part of this. So that's how I'm charged with criminal contempt second. And what's going to happen to me next is even worse than this. I go to this gym called PW Fitness, which is now defunct. And if you drive down Penfield Road, there's Wegmans, and there's a shopping center across from Wegmans. And one day I'm on the bench press, and up walks to me Jermaine L. Bedman. And he motions with his hand like that for me to get off the bench press. So I've seen the way he behaves at the gym, and I decided I'm just to ignore this guy. I do 3 sets of 10. I've never had any problems at the gym. And this is going to be my first problem at the gym is with Bedman. So I tell Bedman I'll be 30 seconds. Bedman stands over me. His shorts are right in my face. He punches down my head, snaps back violently. Bedman walks away. A witness calls the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, and this is when $79,000 Andrew Reale arrives. Now, at this point, David Munson, I haven't harassed anybody. I've never harassed anybody in my long life, 57 years, ever. Any friend, any family member, any girlfriend, any acquaintance, anybody I've ever worked with in Albany, Washington, D.C., say I've never harassed anyone. Harassment is the vulgarity of life, which I'm sure you know, Dr. Munson. It's impossible to harass anyone when you're violently attacked by a psychopath, and Jermaine Bedman's a psychopath. So Andrew Reale arrives. He tells us to go out to the vehicle. I'm sitting in the back seat of Andrew Reale's police vehicle as he talks to Jermaine Bedman in front of me. I'm looking at the window, and then he walks Jermaine Bedman around to the side of the vehicle, and Jermaine Bedman says these 7 words to me: I want to press charges against you. And with those 7 words, Dr. Munson, I'm charged with harassment second. So Jermaine Bedman violently attacks me. I'm in the back seat, and I'm charged with harassment second, and I have this ticket that Andrew Reale wrote for me. As I walk down Penfield Road, I'm looking at it in confusion. I mean, here I am charged with criminal contempt second, and just a couple of weeks later, I'm charged with harassment second just by going to the gym. These are not crimes. So I have to go to Penfield Town Court, appear before John P. Lomenzo Jr. If you know the name Danny DeLaus III, this 70-year-old corrupt, nauseating hack is releasing an accused child rapist in Penfield because he knows the family. He doesn't recuse himself from the appearance of Danny DeLaus III. There's a Democrat Chronicle story on this Danny DeLaus III. And John P. Lomenzo Jr. exists in Penfield Town Court just like his successor, Paul C. Metzer, and the other hack, James C. Maloney Jr., without a jury of 12, without a witness box for testimony. There's not even a table for a prosecutor to sit at, a table for a defense attorney defendant to sit at. This is a star chamber. I know you know what that is. There's a star chamber in Penfield Town Court. It's called Penfield Town Court, pardon me. So I appear, and I do not have counsel because I don't have the money. And the public defender's office was not notified. So I'm there alone in Penfield Town Court in front of John P. Lomenzo Jr., determining guilt or innocence for me. I look over to my left at the prosecutor for Sandra Dorley's district attorney's office. Just total silence, Dr. Munson. I look at her and I thought to myself, the minute she starts to talk, the second she starts to talk and accuse me of crime, I will interrupt her. So I look to my left. I'm waiting for her to make an argument that I've committed criminal contempt second or harassment second. Total silence. Lomenzo gavels the proceeding to end, and he's in confusion. His age leads him to confusion. And I think I'm going home. And Andrew Reale appears. There he is. Him and his $79,000 salary. Put your hands behind your back. Now I know I'm going to jail. What I don't know is that there's also a Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee behind me. So I take a step back in shock. As close to shock, I should say. I want to strive for accuracy in my language, but I remember thinking the way my head felt, and I'm going to jail for harassment second, where I'm violently attacked, the criminal contempt second, just for telling a man I was tracked that nobody owns the land next to my residence. I'm headed to jail for this. So the Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee behind me, he puts his hands on my shoulder and drives me to the floor. I'm on my knees in Bedford Court before John P. Lomenzo Jr. And I did something I have not done in 40 years. I screamed. I screamed in violating my rights. So they put the handcuffs on. They took me to Monroe County Jail. I was there for 3 weeks. And I'm there with, of course, the most violent criminals in Monroe County, including the man accused of murdering his neighbor in Rochester. And I was there with an elderly man named Bob. And this man was about 6'8", 280, 300 pounds. And I said to him, and as I now know in jail, you have to be careful about asking about other inmates and what they're in there for, because this is how fights start. And I remember saying to Bob, can you just tell me what he's in here for? And he looked down and he said murder. And then when I arrived home finally, I looked in the Democrat Chronicle, and there was a story with this man. It's a picture of the Democrat Chronicle, how he murdered his neighbor, or he's accused of murdering his neighbor. So Todd Baxter doesn't separate the accused nonviolent inmates from the accused violent inmates. So there I am. I'm in there with the wife beaters, the rapists, the sociopaths, the degenerates of Monroe County that I never thought I would be around. And every day I'm asking, how long am I going to be here? I'm not told my sentence. So I'm in Monroe County Jail, sentenced by John P. Lomenzo Jr. when a prosecutor doesn't talk. There's no evidence I've committed a crime. There's no testimony against me. There's certainly no jury verdict, Dr. Munson. And no one's telling me how long I'm going to be in jail. This is why Todd Baxter is corrupt. Because, as I'm sure you know, it's not only Monroe County Sheriff's Office. He has the responsibility, authority to regulate, supervise, control the jail. And it is a challenge, which he fails at, because he's a miserable, sickening incompetent. And I think that when I contact the Commission on Correction in Albany, I'm going to say something needs to be done in Monroe County, and perhaps they can divorce the responsibility of the sheriff from the jail and just make that a separate entity. But at the jail, I go to the circular desk, and I am saying to the employee, how long am I going to be here? And no one tells me. Here I am in jail as an innocent man, Dr. Munson, where I'm going to the circular desk and asking the employee how long I'm going to be here. How is it that I'm in jail? I don't know my sentence. Nobody told me my sentence at any point in the 3 weeks I was in Monroe County Jail as an innocent man. I was not told a sentence. How does this happen to any citizen in the United States of America? When I say things like that, I know I don't expect an answer. It's just astounding to me how I could be in jail because of one judge. I did not know in the state of New York one judge could sentence the defendant to jail. Now I know, but since this happened to me 6 times. So day after day, I keep saying, how long will we be here? No one tells me. So then one day I'm told to pack, and my response is, pack what? 2 Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees drove me over to Rochester Psychiatric Center. There is no 730 mental health evaluation. The 730 mental health evaluation is New York State law for competency. I'm free because I'm competent. And this 730 mental health evaluation could be abused, and I'm not going to go into detail about that, but it has been abused for me. But I'm free now, and at the Bryant Memorial Library, which is where I am, in the quiet room, because I'm competent. I've been competent my whole life. And perhaps I can contact you again about this 730 and what it did to me once before. So, Dr. David C. Munson Jr., here I am at Monroe County Jail. And then they just drove me over to Rochester Psychiatric Center, where I met Dr. Jeremy Smith. And I'm at RPC with a man named John, who was in his 60s, and he says to me one day, we're in a concentration camp. And I tell him he's not in a concentration camp, and John doesn't believe me. I'm in there with a man named Victor, who is a middle-aged man who drools on himself, and he doesn't know he's at RPC. I'm in there with elderly women that walk around in their nightgowns. There was one man, he would sit in a corner and he would scream. I'm sure that you know about the film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, 1975 film, based on the 1962 book by Ken Kesey. This is exactly the way it is, because I've read the book and seen the film. It's exactly, the RPC is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Well, Dr. David C. Munson Jr., I'm at Rochester Psychiatric Center with a fake, phony, fraudulent document concocted by Professor of Clinical and Forensic Psychology in the College of Health Sciences and Technology, Dr. Caroline Easton, who's also the director of RIT's internship program, and she should be around anybody that's a minor or an 18, 19, or 20-year-old just beginning life. It's a disgrace what she did to me. And I'm demanding to know from her, not from you. And I'm striving to treat you with respect and decency. And it is a challenge for me to do that because I don't know you. But you employ this Dr. Easton, and I'm at RPC because of her. Dr. Caroline Easton concocted a fake, phony document that purports to be an examination of my mental health. And she's never met me. It's as simple as that. I'm going to say that again. Dr. Caroline Easton concocted a fake, phony, fraudulent document that purports to be an examination of my mental health, and she's never met me. Tell Dr. Easton to contact me in writing or in the address that's on this email, which I'm not going to say because it's the humiliation of my life. And I'm hoping to get to the point where I can end the humiliation of my life because I'm an evicted from my residence at 26 Sanders Farm Drive in Penfield. I don't know if you're going to see this because you could see my name and you could think, I don't know this person, delete me on your email, and that's just the way it is. But I'm trying to contact you, David Munson. Pardon me, Dr. David C. Munson, President of Rochester Institute of Technology. I want to make sure I strive to treat you with the respect you deserve to be in such a prestigious position. And, I was at RIT because I ran a 5K there. And it was the first and only time I'd been to RIT. And it really was a terrific day. I think I was in 17th place this day. I ran in the low 20s, which is usually what I run. I've been a runner my whole life. And it was such a terrific day to be there at RIT. And I would like to go back and run this race at RIT. And it really is a prestigious institution that it delivers so many wonderful, terrific things to the citizens of Monroe County. And I was glad I got to be there at RIT that one day when I ran this 5K. So I'm just demanding answers from her. This was a nightmare for me to be at RPC. And I was released because Dr. Jeremy Smith at RPC said, quote, all right, the order should be here. Those are exact language to me. And I had to tell my mother and father all this as they approached the end of their lives. And my relationship with my mother and father has now been destroyed. And Dr. Caroline Easton helped destroy it. She's not completely responsible for it, but I had to tell my mother and father I was at RPC and I used her name when I spoke to my mother and father. I think I said something like, this quack doctor concocted some fake, phony piece of paper for me. And it is a piece of paper. It's one piece of paper. Does Dr. Caroline Easton have this piece of paper I refer to, Dr. David C. Munson Jr.? And I'm going to write all this down and send it to you, what I'm saying. It's just on YouTube's now at 28 minutes, and I'm probably not going to be on here for too much longer. So I'm just going to state again while I'm contacting you, Dr. Munson, is that your employee, Dr. Caroline Easton, the Professor of Clinical and Forensic Psychology in the College of Health Sciences and Technology, and the Director of RIT's internship program, concocted a fake, phony, fraudulent document for me that has me in Rochester Psychiatric Center on Elmwood Avenue. I would leave the facility and I'd go in the back and I'd walk down to this fence, and it's about a 15-foot high fence with concertina wire. I'd look up at it, how I'm being kept in there involuntarily against my will, thinking this is my life. I'm here at RPC because of one doctor I've never met and a piece of paper that's just meaningless words on that piece of paper. So Dr. David C. Munson, the corruption of Todd Baxter and Sandra Dorling is this is the Freedom of Information Law, which I'm sending to them over and over. And how am I in jail when a prosecutor doesn't talk to court? Because you're a voter, Dr. Munson. This is the corruption of Sandra Dolan and Todd Baxter. Well, I can't even find out the names of my prosecutors of silence, because this says the documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester before John P. Lomenzo Jr. Penfield Town Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Dolan? I have sent this, Dr. Munson, to the district attorney for 18 months, forcing her to disclose the name of my prosecutor before John P. Lomenzo Jr. My second prosecutor, Dr. Munson, the documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester before Paul C. Nelson Penfield Town Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Dolan? And then they're forcing me to go into New York State Supreme Court before Alex Renzi, which is at 99 Exchange. The documentation for the case of Christopher Chichester before Alex Renzi, New York State Supreme Court. What is the name of the prosecutor, Sandra Dolan? I have prosecutors that I'm demanding the names for that have never talked, and I've been in jail 6 times. And this is from September 17th. They've received this 5 more times from me, where I'm not just sending it to them on email and being on YouTube. They're getting cards where they're signing for this. The District Attorney of Monroe County, Dr. David C. Munson Jr., Rochester Institute of Technology. Sandra Dolan is so corrupt that when I use the legally binding document that is the Freedom of Information Law upon her to force her to disclose my prosecutor's silence, where her employees are signing for it, will not tell me the names of my prosecutor's silence. And Regina Harper, my wonderful, terrific, dedicated public defender, said to me at one point regarding a prosecutor, the prosecutor's not backing down. This is the 5'2", 3-piece suit boy. Appeared in Penfield Town Court for Paul C. Metzel, who's paid $28,000 and 70 years old. I failed to understand the vengeance of heart of this boy that works for Sandra Dolan. The prosecutor's not backing down. He didn't even talk to me. A prosecutor from the district attorney's office has never even called me about any of my concoctions. And I'm pausing because I'm about to explain what I'm not, because we're taking another 10 to 15 minutes, and I'm going to conclude this as soon as I can. So, Dr. Munson, why is your employee, Dr. Caroline Easton, your professor of clinical forensic psychology and the College of Health Science Technology, in my life? How did she get my name? Will you tell your employee to contact me, either via this email or at the phone number that's on this email? I'm not going to say where I am, but it's easy to reach me, either through this email or at the address where I'm at. The best way to contact me, it doesn't have to be a phone call, just write to me at my temporary residence that's on this email. I wish you would tell your employee, Dr. Caroline Easton, to contact me, because I will contact the State Department of Health about her, the State Office of Mental Health about her, any Federal Department of Health and Human Services about her, because she should be banned from any facility in New York State. Any New York State government facility should never have Dr. Caroline Easton associated with it because of what she's done to me. And what she's done to me, Dr. David C. Munson Jr. at Rochester Institute of Technology, is contributed to the destruction of my life. So, liberty is the soul's right to breathe. I love that phrase. And I've had to confront the suffocation of my liberty by fanaticism in the sheriff's office and district attorney's office. I hope what's happened to me never happens to anybody in Monroe County or anybody in the state of New York that I love with every fiber of my being. So, Dr. David C. Munson Jr., I hope what has happened to me never happens to you. And I hope what has happened to me never happens to Dr. Caroline Easton.